Happy 4th of July, Night Nation. Are you ready to celebrate? Well, here's what I'm excited about this holiday weekend. Welcome back to One More Night, a UCF podcast, one team, one heartbeat. This is Coach Wolf, and here are the five things we're going to run down today. Number one, what else am I celebrating today outside of July 4th? Number two, we're going to talk about where others see the Knights finishing in 2026. But the third thing is, I'm going to give you my expectation game by game and how I think we'll end this upcoming season. But four, we're going to jump back to football, the World Cup. Finished up the round of 32 over the past 2 days. I'll give you those results and give you the slate of games coming up for the round of 16 as teams battle to get to the quarterfinals. And then the fifth thing is, I'm just going to share one of my favorite 4th of July memories. So let's get underway and let me first say happy 4th of July to everybody. Hope you guys have a great weekend planned, celebrating with your loved ones. Wherever you may be. So, 250 years, hard to believe. I know that's kind of young comparative to some other countries, but it is a milestone, and I've enjoyed actually watching a lot of the Netflix has had a ton of history documentaries of past presidents and just things of the time. So it's been kind of cool to be able to catch up on that. But I'm also excited about something else, and that is because a year ago today, July 4th, 2025, I started this podcast. So I'm celebrating my 1 year anniversary of being a podcaster. And not only that, this is my 90th episode that I'm putting out, but my first one that I'm going to drop on my YouTube channel. So this is my first opportunity to put it out there to the world and see how I do. So adding a little bit to it. So pretty excited about that. As far as, my channel, it's at UCF.onemorenight. That's where you can find me. That's my same handle, except it's at UCF underscore one more night for my Twitter/X. Instagram is UCF underscore one more night, and email UCF dot one more night at gmail.com. So if you want to keep up with me, especially getting ready to do a vacation. So I'm going to try to do more on my social media sites. I've been slacking in that. I put out some things for a while and then just got busy. But with being away, that's where I'm going to basically, grab my information and pop it there. I know that you guys follow UCF too, but kind of give you my take on what I post as well. So if you want to follow along, feel free. And just looking forward to getting an actual little break. I'll miss doing the show for a couple of weeks, but trust me, there'll be plenty when I get back. So let's get into that second thing. So the second thing is I wanted to go and kind of look and see where others feel like the Knights are going to be at the end of the 2026 football season. And it was interesting because early in the summer, CBS Sports put out a prediction, and it really upset not only some people that put out content for UCF, but Night Nation in general. Not very happy with the projection, because the projection was 3-9, only winning the two games against Bethune-Cookman and Georgia State. And the only other victory they were giving us credit for was Iowa State, because they said Iowa State would be worse than us. But we would lose some of the other games, the Pitt game and all 8 of the other conference games we would lose, end up 3-9. A lot of us had issues with that. Now, as more and more has come out and more people I think have kind of dug in, there were a couple of other places that I found that were a little bit more where we would like to see them, and the one I found was College Football News really projects us to be bowl eligible. And I really feel like, as UCF fan, that's where we feel is the floor for us is we must make a bowl game this year. We must win at least one more game and get to 6-6. But again, we feel like that's the floor. Now there's others that feel like the floor is a little bit different, and we'll kind of talk about those. But one of the things I noticed was that they stated on this website, College Football News, that TCU is a must win. And the reason they stated that is because the next two games are on the road at Houston and on the road at Oklahoma State, which they feel we will not win. I'm going to give you my take when I get to my expectations of the season, but that's the reason they say, TCU's a must win at home because you're going to lose the next two. You can't start 0-3. We'll see. We also play three of the teams that struggled last year on our schedule, one of them being Oklahoma State. You had Colorado that struggled last year and also Kansas. So we play those. Now they are all on the road, but will we lose all three of those? I just don't see that happening. And then, you sit here and you go, okay, so I was looking at, wow, we don't play Arizona, we don't play K-State, we don't play Texas Tech, we don't play Utah. So we're missing out on some of the upper echelon. So our schedule strength was 14 out of 16. So I go back to that CBS and say, well, if they're saying our strength of schedule in conference is pretty weak, like 14 out of 16, like how can you sit here and say that we're going to end 3-9? Like, we miss a lot of those stronger teams, and so that's where I was kind of like, I'm not so sure that they have it quite accurate on there, but we'll see. Like I said, I'm gonna give you my expectations here in a second. So another thing I like to do is I like to be able to look at the early predictions as far as who's favorite. And so I found this website called Punt and Rally. They had us favored in 4 of the 12 games. And so you would think, God, they only have us being 4-8. Well, they have that as the favorites, and that they have that as our floor, 4-8, not 3-9 as our floor. But two of those games were away games, which were both Kansas and Colorado. We were only 1 point underdogs. And that's basically because they're the home team, they're getting the advantage. So they feel like those are more coin flips that UCF could probably turn the other way. They really feel like it's more of that 6 out of 12. The ones that they surprised me on. They have us losing TCU, Baylor, and Arizona State at home. Three home losses to those teams. I know we have some of our tougher games at home, and I was just like, I don't know if I see that as the ones that we wouldn't be favored. Of course, we weren't favored with BYU. It was a pretty big spread. So that would be, us losing 4 home games. I don't see us losing four. Do I think some of those could swing and we could lose, 2 to 3? Yeah, possibly. But they also had us, not favored for the Pittsburgh game, which I understood that one on the road early, and Pittsburgh is still getting a little bit of love, which we'll talk about on the schedule. So it was interesting, I guess, is to just see kind of like where things are now. Those all can change because the prediction is going to change week by week based on how teams are doing and where everybody is. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into some of the information as far as where they see us and kind of streamline that into where I feel like we'll be for my expectations of what the Knights will accomplish in 2026. For you audio listeners, I have pulled up the schedule. So those on video are doing that. So what I'm going to do is I'm kind of go down what my prediction will be for this year's UCF Knights football team. The betters have it at 5.5, over under 5.5. So they really think there's a possibility of 5-7 or 6-6. That's where they feel like the Knights will be. As we talked about some of the other sites, floor is really 4-8, but let's talk about what I believe the ceiling is. And most people agree with what possibly the ceiling is. Now, I listened to a couple other podcasts. I listened to Sons of UCF. I listened to Charge On, but I listened to Locked On with Mikey G. He's putting out a lot of content right now just because he's kind of talking about, each game that we play. He's breaking down certain players. He's talking about, like, he's done a couple of crossovers, and he's taken some of those where he talked about the best five quarterbacks in the conference. And he's done that with some of the people that he has on his show. And that's created a little bit because some people have, you know, Alonzo very high. Some of them have Bear very low, and BYU's upset. And like, it's been pretty good banter. But one of the things they've talked about is the schedule. So they've kind of thrown out some really high expectations, 9 and 10 wins. I'm like, don't know that. So we're just going to break down the piece of where I want to kind of talk about for the month of September. Most people feel like there's a good possibility UCF could be 3-0 going into the TCU game. And then being at home can knock off TCU, end up 4-0. And I just feel like in the month of September, we're going to stub our toe somewhere in the month of September. Still a new team, still putting everything together. So I just don't feel like that's possible. Now, you go back and say, well, Chris, what do you know? Well, I didn't get my predictions right last year for sure. I predicted us to go 7-5, 4-5 in conference. We ended up 5-7, 2-7 at conference, but we almost beat Kansas. Couldn't punch it in from the goal line. And then Houston, the guy was open. If we have the right QB, we beat them too. So feel like I wasn't that far off, so I'm hoping my prediction for this isn't as far off. But I will tell you, I'm taking you on some ebb and flows here. Some very unorthodox way to get to my expectation. The biggest thing is I just hope we get pretty close to my final record that I think we'll get. Don't care if it doesn't go out this way, but I just feel like we're going to go through ebbs and flows, and I feel like things are going to happen that we don't expect. So out the gate, we play Bethune-Cookman. I don't see any problem with that one. I feel like Alonzo will only play the first half. We'll get a lot of looks at other players, other quarterbacks. And so I don't really think there'll be a lot on tape for us when we go on the road the next week to Pittsburgh, which we also play on a Thursday. We open always up on a Thursday. It gives us some additional time that weekend to take a look, get a good game plan together before we hit the road to Pitt. And Pitt is also opening up with, Miami of Ohio. They're not going to be able to show us too much either. So both teams going into that second week, they're going to be able to, find out a lot more during that game. So the question is, on the road, we're right now 7-point underdog, could be more or less. We'll just see. I don't really know how much you'll be able to tell from the first week. So I'll probably stay around a touchdown underdog. Pitt was pretty good last year. I mean, they were 8-4. They were, battling to be at in the conference championship game there at the end before they kind of faltered. They had a couple big victories, but then had some poor losses. So I really wanted to kind of break down. Okay, well, an 8-4 team. Let's talk about some of their wins and some of their losses. So of those 8 victories, 2 of them were just like what we have this year. Lesser opponents, pretty much at home. We're paying them to come there to get games. So 6 of those are conference games. Let's see who they play. Boston College, 2-10. Syracuse, 3-9. Stanford, 4-8. FSU, 5-7, a little better than the 2 wins they got the year before. Thought they were going to be a little formidable, especially early with Gus, but I'm not really sure that's a good victory. 2 that were very good, North Carolina State, 8-5. And the Georgia Tech one at the end of the year, Georgia Tech looked like they were going to be making the game, and they went in there and not only beat them, but handled Georgia Tech. Now, they tried to come back. Georgia Tech, I mean, they were down 3 scores and kept trying to get it in there, and as soon as they get close, they squash back. But Georgia Tech was a 9-4 team, and they beat them. So some great victories. Their 4 losses, they had a blowout to Notre Dame and Miami, and that's what hurt them at the end of the year was the Miami blowout. They lost to Louisville, who was 9-4 team. And then we'll talk about the other loss, but they also lost their bowl game. And their bowl game was against ECU. And the thing about bowl games now, it's hard to tell. I mean, ECU is not a great team, but I mean, did they have people sitting out because they were transferring? Because the portal comes out, a lot of those kids sit, don't play. Was it really the team they were during the year? Possibly not. They lost 23-17. Wasn't that impressive. But the other loss they had during the season, it was to West Virginia, who's in our conference. Wasn't very good. Now, it was earlier in the year, so there weren't as many injuries yet for Rich Rod's team. And it is a rival game for the most part, but still, I mean, you lost to West Virginia early. I think that's what's going to happen to them with us. We're getting them early. They're not going to know a lot about us. I think we'll know a little bit more about them because of they have a lot of the same nucleus where we have some skill players, but with a total different quarterback package, a lot of defense. I think we can go up there on the road and prove that we can win on the road. Because remember last year we lost every road game last year, which really hurt us. We could not. You got to win on the road to be able to compete in the Big 12 and to be able to be viable each and every year. So I think we go and get that win. We come back home. We play Georgia State. Again, another probably half for Alonzo and then subs in. So I think we do go into TCU 3-0. But here's the thing. I told you that one said that TCU's a must win because they feel like the next two are losses on the road. I differ a little bit. I actually think TCU doesn't really play anybody before us. They play UNC. Bill Belichick probably still be struggling again this year. And then they play Grambling and Arkansas State. So I think both teams will probably be 3-0. This will be the first one. We clipped them at home just a couple years ago. They come back here. I think they repay us the favor, beating us at home on the opening of the conference, just like we did with them. And I think that'll sour some people, but we'll be 3-1. And here's the thing. If we lose the Pitt game, I think somehow we find a way to win the TCU game. I don't think we get out of the month of September without a 3-1 record. I'm just debating that we kind of get that energy of 3-0 because that's what we do, and then falter, especially at a home. Oh my gosh, the sky is falling. And then we know how the month of October's always go. It seems like sometimes we never win a game in October, and that's what we always have to try to win in November to get bowl eligible. Well, I think that's where we turn the tide this year. I think this is where we can make some changes and start getting some victories on the road. I think we've already proven that we can win on the road at Pitt. Well, I think we lose the home game to TCU, and then we go on the road to Houston, and we have a little bit of payback. They knocked off our space game, streak, even though the guy was wide open. If we could have just thrown them the ball. But they will be only tested by Texas Tech, and they play that on a Friday night. Sorry, Cody Campbell, but they'll be playing that on a Friday night, and that will be their only really tough test. The other three games they play, not real tough. So I think we both go into that game 3-1. We'll be on the road. We'll be underdogs, but I think where they got us last year is they were able to late in the game keep the ball away. Defense was not able to get them off the field. They were able to establish a little bit of a run game. And that's what we said is that we got to be better against the run on the road. If we can shut down that and make Connor Wegman throw, and Philip Dunham's not there, probably a good thing for him. But that other secondary is gonna know. I mean, they did a good job of disrupting him last year. We can get a pass rush. Wegman's going to throw some picks again, and I feel like UCF can clip Houston on the road, getting a great road victory, just like we did at Pitt, but a great first road victory in the Big 12. Then we'll follow that up by going to Oklahoma State the next week. Oklahoma State will have played Oregon. We'll have a better idea if North Texas can beat Oregon. And I say North Texas because basically he's taking North Texas, moving to Oklahoma State and saying, oh, well, here's the next coming of the Big 12 champions. I'm not buying it. I actually think they lose to West Virginia the week before they play us. I'm not a big Oklahoma State believer yet. They may prove me wrong. I mean, look at some of the teams that proved me wrong last year that I didn't think would be well. But I think we go and get 2 road wins in the first 2 weeks of October, turning that tide, feeling really good. We have a bye week. We can get rested and healthy and watch BYU play Notre Dame. Ooh, they're going to get beat up, come to us, and we're going to be able to clip them, right? Don't think so. Even though we'll have the bye, I know we jumped out on them 14-0 last year. Kalani Sitake is going to be well aware of what things Scott may try this time. They'll be prepared. They also play Arizona and TCU. They play tougher competition early. And so I think that's advantage BYU actually playing a team like Notre Dame before. I don't think they'll get beat up. I think they're going to be tested and they're going to be able to, work through adversity. I don't think they'll beat Notre Dame, but of course, I feel like it's just going to be a tough one. Homecoming, they always bring fans. I mean, even in basketball, I don't know. I just feel like that's the loss on our schedule that we won't get. Now the thing is now you go, dang, Chris, you have us winning two road games, but losing the two home games in the first four conference games, and yeah, that's kind of where I think we'll do. But good news, end of October. Now, not on Halloween on that Saturday because space game, and we're gonna play that at night, right? Got to play the space game at night, but need to move to 30th because fans may not show up if it's Halloween because trick or treating versus UCF game. Sometimes we don't show during things that are, compete with our football. So I feel like Friday night we owe Baylor multiple times. I mean, I know we embarrassed them in the Fiesta Bowl, but they've had the best of us lately, and I don't know if any of y'all remember the first year in the conference. I know I do. When Gus was here, I was at my high school reunion, right? Sitting there watching the game, getting ready to go to the reunion. I don't want to leave until I kind of feel like we got it. We're up 24 points in the fourth quarter. Look at my wife. I'm like, yeah, we can ride. So what happens? Get to the reunion and people come up to me, hey, sorry about your nights, because they know how big of a UCF fan I am. And I'm, what are you talking about? And they're like, well, they lost. I'm like, no, they didn't. I pull up the score 35-34 Baylor. We have 25 unanswered points in the fourth quarter. Of course, I went back and watched it, and I see why. We played absolutely atrocious. It just, the coaching was ridiculous. So we ended up losing that game. And then last year when we went to Baylor, we got blown out 30-3. Thought we had a chance to actually get that game on the road. Really looked terrible there. So we owe them. We owe them. We got to get back on the space game victory train because Houston knocked us off last year. So going with the space game win to Baylor, not only that, it's kind of a teaser because I kind of told you I'd go over more like Big 12 prediction, but I'll give you my take on Baylor. Dave Aranda's on the hot seat. I think he comes to us 4-3. We give him a loss, move him to 4-4. He goes home, beats Iowa State because they're terrible. And then his next three games to end. Check this out. He plays BYU, Texas Tech, Houston. I think all three losses. They miss bowl game. Dave Aranda out. That's just my take there. So let's talk about where we are now at the end of October. So I had us winning 3 or 4 games in September, 3 or 4 games in October, 3+3. I have us bowl eligible, something different, something we have not been at in a long time in the month of October. I have us in the month of October at 6-2, already bowl eligible going into November. Something like I said, even Gus's when he was making those runs, he was still losing a lot in October and winning more in November. So I feel like we end October at 6-2. We're bowl eligible. We go on the road to Kansas. We keep our road win alive because I think Kansas is still going to be struggling. New quarterback, new system. We struggled with Kansas typically, but I feel like we're going to get our third road victory here. And you think, well, dang, Chris, you have us losing at home, but winning on the road. But yeah, that's why I said the ebb and flows. I think it's going to be a little bit different, but to be competitive, we're going to have to win on the road because we're going to lose some of these tougher ones at home. I feel, especially when we come back the next week, we play Arizona State. Dillingham's going to have them ready. Arizona State's going to be tested. They play Texas A&M on the road. They're going to have played Texas Tech and BYU. I just don't think the bounce house is going to bother them. I just think they'll be seasoned. I mean, they've played in some big games. Some of these kids have stayed with him. So I think we lose our third home game. So out of 7 games, I think we're going to lose 3 of them at home, which sucks, but that's just what I think. But the good news is the next week's a home game, senior night on a Friday night, Iowa State. Again, I think Iowa State's going to be the worst in the conference. I think we get that victory, move to our 8th win. Yay. We have a chance for 9. We're going to Colorado, but I actually think we'll get tripped up at Colorado, and here's why. We really dodged a bullet last year in Utah. We went to go play BYU. It was supposed to be cold, snowy, 20 degrees. Ended up being sunny, 40 degrees. We jumped out on them again like that. I just feel like Colorado, we're not gonna dodge it this time. I feel like we're gonna have the colder weather. I feel like in the month of November, you know, Colorado has the toughest schedule, hardest schedule in the Big 12. We have the 14th, but I just feel like Dion will find a way to get that last victory because it could be. I mean, he could be on the hot seat too. I just think Colorado's going to struggle this year, but I think they beat us. I think they clip us. We end up 8-4, 5-4 in conference. I think that's our ceiling, 8-4, not 9 or 10 wins, except maybe a bowl game. Hard to say bowl games because you never know who you're going to play. So I won't go that far, but I think we'll end at 8-4. Now, will it go exactly this way? Probably not. But I will take 8-4 any way it can. Hey, winning Texas or TCU and then losing at Houston, you know, but then going on the road to Oklahoma State, I still think that's a win. By the way, I'm not buying the North Texas transferring into Big 12 and going that. Can we beat BYU at home? We could, coming off the bye, possible. But yeah, so it's possible that things could go different. But I just think at the end of the day, I just think we got that bowl eligibility, maybe a little bit of complacency, a little bit of, 2-2 to end the year, but 8-4, great, respectable 3-game jump from the year prior. That's where I think we're going to end up. That is what I'm going to put out there, and we'll see how I do. Hopefully, better than last year. So, all right, well, take off the screen share. Thanks you, the audio listeners, as I've gone through the schedule, just kind of listen. But I'm gonna go ahead and take down the screen share, and we will get to World Cup football. So switching over to the World Cup, they finished off the round of 32 the last 2 days. Here were some of the results: Spain blanks Austria 3-0. On Thursday, the middle game on Thursday was Portugal over Croatia, probably the best one of that day. It was basically a 2-1 win for Portugal, but they scored that last goal in the 90-minute range, right before that stoppage time. So they would end up winning, and then Switzerland defeated Algeria 2-0. Friday slates of games were definitely better. Egypt tied at 1-1 with Austria, and they would end up beating Austria in the penalty kick time 4-2. And then to me, the best game yesterday, Argentina, beats Cape Verde, but Cape Verde, great effort. They were down 1-0. They come back and tie it. They go into the, extra periods. It's 15-minute periods. Argentina scores like 3 minutes in. You're like, oh, man. But they come back and get an own goal and tie it up. But then right there, probably, I think it was the last 5 or 6 minutes, set piece corner. Argentina gets a header into the far side goal, ends up coming away with a 3-2 victory. And then the late game, Colombia over Ghana 1-0. So all the round of 16 is set. 2 games over the next 4 days. So today you have Canada, Morocco, and then you have Paraguay and France. Tomorrow's slate is Brazil, Norway, Mexican, England. And then on Monday, you have Portugal, Spain. And then our U.S. play Belgium with the man down. Hopefully, without Flo, we can advance. And then Tuesday, you have Argentina versus Egypt and Switzerland versus Colombia. Now, that is to advance into the quarterfinals. And hopefully, we'll be able to do that. I won't be able to give you any more kind of updates on the World Cup just because of being traveling. But let's just get to the 4th of July memories, the fifth thing I wanted to talk about and wrap this show up. So my parents were teachers. And so just like me, I had summers off. My dad was a football coach, though. So we had a limited amount of time, but we had a cabin on a lake that we ended up. We didn't go to it as much when I was younger, but more and more of the family stopped using it. So we would go up there, 5, 6 weeks during the summer. And pretty much June was the sweet spot. And then once we hit 4th of July, we knew things were wrapping down because we always had to get back. Dad had football and things he had to get ready for. But the 4th of July was always kind of, basically towards the end of our stay there. We'd have big cookouts, lots of family. You remember those things. Well, probably my best memory was when I was growing up, Kawasaki was pretty much the jet ski maker. And it was like one of these ones that were like little stand ups, and you'd see them at the ocean. You'd see some of them around lakes, but not too much. But then Yamaha and Sea-Doo ended up getting into personal watercrafts, making them, where you could sit on them and ride them around and, do spins and stuff. And so they started to become popular, more and more popular as we got up there. My grandfather hated them because he was a fisherman. He's like, those mosquitoes, because they make so much noise. They were very loud. You could hear, especially when they get out of the water, you'd hear the winding of the gears, and they were very loud, you know, watercrafts. And so every 4th of July, looked forward to fireworks and the cookouts and everything. Well, there was one 4th of July, we always wanted to get up early, eat breakfast, and we like to water ski. We like to do it early before it gets rough and all the boats get out. Well, all of a sudden, I mean, it's probably 7:30. All of a sudden we hear all this noise, just like this humming, like, gosh, what is it? And then under our cove, you just see some jet skis enter and some more jet skis enter, some more jet skis enter. And basically, by the time the jet skis were entering our cove, and that's a big one, a big cove, big, deep cove. And by the time they were exiting, they were still entering. It was basically a jet ski parade. And I was like, oh, that would be so cool to be a part of. Well, lo and behold, my senior year, I get a jet ski. My parents also bought another one for the family. So my sister and I and cousins got to go participate in it I think it was like 2 or 3 years, and then it started to die off. It's just one of those things that was really hot for a while, and then people are like, what's the new flavor? But I think probably one of my best memories was being able to stick that flag in that jet ski and ride out to the island, meet up, and go through all of um, the coves and just being part of that. That was probably one of my most favorite memories growing up with 4th of July. So, drop me a comment. Let me know what your favorite one is. Just like I said, looking forward to enjoying this weekend. We got, it's kind of pretty quiet, just kind of doing some ribs, hang out by the pool today. Get ready for our vacation coming up. Be gone for 10 days. So again, won't be dropping, but I'll be putting some things on uh, my social media, but won't be putting out another podcast till I get back. I get back on the 17th. So I'll be putting some together. Now, some of the upcoming things I'm going to do in 1996, 30 years ago, first Division One season. So I'm going to go and I'm going to call it 30 and 3. So we're going to go over the 30 last seasons in 3 episodes, breaking in 10-year increments, and kind of go over some key pieces of our players, our plays, or games of those, each year of those 10 years through all 30 years, kind of leading us up into this 31st season. Plus, I'm going to give you my Big 12 projections. I know I snuck in, gave a couple of them with some of the other ones, but we're gonna talk about some of my projections of where I think the Big 12. I've told you where I think UCF where is that comparative to others, and who do I think will win the conference? And then I'm sure there'll be other stories that emerge over the next couple of weeks that I'll be able to touch on as well. So outside of that, guys, have a great 4th of July weekend. Thanks for not only tagging along on my audio listeners, but hopefully this video is getting out and people are watching it. Appreciate you, supporting, like and subscribe. Hopefully, can build this over the year, built my audio audience over this past year. Hopefully this next year, the video thing really takes off and continue this journey on getting my podcast out there and just looking forward to it. And thanks again. I like I said, just really enjoy talking UCF as most of you know. So, all right, well, let's wrap it up for today. And as always, go Knights, charge on.